In the late 1980s, Japan was widely seen as one of the safest countries in the world. Kids played outside without much worry. Parents rarely imagined that something truly terrible could happen to their children. But one family received a package that would permanently destroy that sense of safety. Inside the package, there was a letter. Police quickly realized something disturbing. Whoever wrote it knew exactly what had happened to their missing daughter. Which meant only one thing. Somewhere nearby, there was someone who wasn't just abducting children. He was watching the reaction of the entire country, watching the investigation unfold. And sometimes families received strange phone calls. When they picked up the phone, there was only silence on the other end. No voice, no explanation, and the most unsettling part, this was not the first child. In August of 1988, a 4-year-old girl named Mari disappears from a suburb of Tokyo. She had been playing outside near her home. Neighbors had seen her just minutes earlier. At first, her parents assumed she might have wandered off to a friend's house. But time passes, and she never comes back. Search teams begin combing through the area. Later, police discover her body in a wooded location. For many people across Japan, the news is shocking. But then something even more disturbing happens. A few months later, another child disappears. Then another, and then a fourth. Investigators slowly begin to realize something terrifying. This isn't random, it's a pattern. All of the victims are young girls between 4 and 7 years old. And they vanish in very similar situations, usually when they're briefly alone outside. As investigators begin reviewing the cases, a timeline starts to form. The pattern looks like this: August 1988, the first murder; October 1988, the second; December 1988, the third; June 1989, the fourth. For nearly 11 months, the killer remains unidentified. Each attack happens quickly. Investigators believe he used a car. He appears suddenly and disappears before anyone realizes what happened. But eventually, something changes. The killer begins sending letters. After one of the crimes, a family receives a message. The letter is disturbing. The words are made from letters cut out of magazines. Some of the messages are signed with a strange name, Yuko Amada. Police confirm that the letters were sent by the killer. The tone is cold, almost mocking. One message contains only a few short words: Erica, cold, cough, throat, rest, death. Families sometimes receive silent phone calls as well. When they answer, no one speaks. Families sometimes receive silent phone calls as well. When they answer, no one speaks. Investigators begin to notice something important. Whoever is responsible is clearly following the news, watching the investigation, and possibly enjoying the fear spreading across the country. Criminal profilers begin constructing a psychological profile. They believe the killer is likely a man, someone living an isolated life, someone who spends most of his time alone, and someone who feels a need to control the fear he creates. But even with months of investigation, police still have no name. By the middle of 1989, the country is living in fear. Because somewhere nearby is a person responsible for 4 murders, and no one knows who he is. But everything changes that summer because of a single mistake, and soon, the world learns the name behind the crimes. His name was Tsutomu Miyazaki. Tsutomu Miyazaki was born in 1962, in Tokyo. At first glance, he seemed like an ordinary man. He worked as a technician, and lived a quiet life. But people who knew him later described him as extremely withdrawn. As a child, he struggled socially. He was born with a deformity in his hands, and often felt isolated from others. Over time, he became more and more disconnected from society. When police eventually searched his home, they discovered something unusual: thousands of videotapes, entire rooms filled with them. On July 23, 1989, Miyazaki notices a young girl outside her home. He begins taking photographs of her. But something unexpected happens. The girl's father notices the stranger. He steps outside and begins chasing him. Miyazaki panics and runs. And in that moment, he makes a critical mistake. He leaves his car behind. Police locate the vehicle and identify its owner. That is how investigators finally trace the suspect. The trial begins in 1990. Defense lawyers argue that Miyazaki suffers from severe mental illness. Multiple psychiatric evaluations are conducted. Some experts claim he is legally insane. Others strongly disagree. The court must decide the central question: did he understand what he was doing? After years of legal proceedings, the answer becomes clear: yes. In 1997, the court delivers its verdict. The sentence: death. Years of appeals follow, but the sentence remains unchanged. In 2008, the execution is finally carried out. The method is hanging, the standard form of capital punishment used in Japan. According to reports, Miyazaki remained calm before the execution. He made no public statement. The story of the man who kept an entire country in fear for nearly a year ended quietly. But the impact of the case lasted far longer, because sometimes the most dangerous people can appear completely ordinary. Miyazaki's neighbors described him as an ordinary, quiet man. Does it terrify you more that such evil can exist in plain sight, or that we may never truly know the people living right next door?